Hello everyone, welcome to the Daily Current Affair Analysis brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy, 26th July 2025. Displayed here are the list of topics that we will be discussing. The first topic, human papillomavirus. The second topic, India United Kingdom Free Trade Agreement. And the third topic, crisis in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And the next is about the extension of the president's rule in Manipur. And finally, Stampede. So without much delay, let's begin our discussion with the first topic. Doctors stress the need for gender neutral cervical cancer prevention strategy in India. The article is taken from The Hindu. So recently, the Serum Institute of India organized a conclave called Conquer Cancer and HPV. In this conclave, the doctors called for a gender neutral approach to deal with the problem of human papillomavirus. We know that human papillomavirus is a major reason behind the development of cervical cancer in women. And we know that according to the estimation of WHO, cervical cancer is the fourth most commonly found cancer in women. And in the year 2022, nearly 6 lakh cases across the world was reported. And out of this 6 lakh cases, 3,55,000 death also reported due to cervical cancer. And the cervical cancer also has a socio-economic angle, because most of the cervical cancer cases are reported from low and middle income countries. And the traditional way of dealing with the problem of cervical cancer was vaccinating women or girls. But this has to be changed. And here comes the importance of gender neutral approach to deal with the cervical cancer. So let us discuss more about this news article. First, we'll start with the human papillomavirus, the key reason behind the development of cervical cancer. It is a group of over 100 virus, and out of this 100, 14 are at high risk. And this virus is usually transmitted through sexual contact, and it can also transmit through skin-to-skin contact. And naturally, this virus will be cleared by our immune system, but in certain cases, the virus will persist in the body and causes, infection. And this persistent infection may lead to mutation in the cell in that particular area, especially the cervix. And that is the reason behind the development of cancer from this virus. And persistent high-risk HPV can cause cervical cancer. And in the men, it can lead to penile and anal cancer and also throat cancer. And sometimes the certain types of HPV are not cancerous, but it can develop genital warts, especially in men. And this can lead to psychological issues like depression and anxiety. And one more thing we have to see that according to the estimation of WHO, the women who are living with HIV are at 6 times more risk of developing cervical cancer. So what is the need for inclusive vaccination? So we know that traditionally, like I mentioned, the traditional way of dealing with the problem was vaccinating the girls. But now the experts are stressing for vaccinating the boys too, because 1 in 3 boys carry the HPV virus by at the age of 50, and they can be a carrier of this virus. And recently there is a rise of cancers like penile cancer, anal cancer, and throat cancer. And the development of what, especially the HPV type 6 and 11, even though they are not cancerous, they can cause distressing warts, which will lead to psychological stress in the men. And to deal with this problem, we need a gender neutral approach. And already the nations like Australia have taken step to ensure the prevention of the. And we can see that the nations like Australia has already taken step to prevent the HPV through using the gender neutral approach. So coming to the prelims practice question, the question is the most common types of HPV that causes cervical cancer are option A HPV 1 and 2, option B HPV 4 and 8, and option C HPV 6 and 11, and option D HPV 16 and 18. See, the most common types of HPV that causes the cervical cancer is the HPV 16 and 18. They are cancerous, and we also discussed the HPV 6 and 11. Even they are not cancerous, but that this virus, the 6 and 11 type, can lead to development of warts in the people. And this is one of the reasons behind the psychological stress also. And that is why we need gender neutral approach to deal with the problem of cervical problem of HPV these days. Let's check the answer. The correct answer is option D, HPV 16 and 18. These are the most common reasons or most common types that causes the cervical cancer. So with this, we will move to the next article. UK trade deal, India gains big in food, footwear, textile to cut tariff in auto liquor. The article is taken from Indian Express. We know that for a very long time we are talking about India-UK Free Trade Agreement, and on finally this Thursday, the Union Ministry for Commerce and Industry signed the Free Trade Agreement with the UK, marking a significant milestone in India-UK relationship. And through this free trade agreement, India is aiming to boost the bilateral trade from 21 billion to 34 billion by 2040. And this free trade agreement is also expected to benefit key Indian industries like Indian textiles, gems, jewelry, and also the micro, small, medium enterprises. And the free trade agreement is also expected to make the medical devices and aircraft parts more cheaper than present. And in the ceremonial event, India also introduced various ideas with the UK, including the Double Contribution Convention and Vision 2035. So let us discuss more about this news article. So coming to the free trade agreement, what is mean by free trade agreement? So before understanding about the free trade agreement, we have to understand about the trade relation between nations. So we know that the domestic market and international market. So imagine that there are country A and country B. So what happens? Both countries will do their economic production, and after the production, the surplus will be exported to another country. And this country A will impose export duty. That means if you want to export 1 kg of onion, you have to pay export duty to the domestic government. Similarly, the country B can impose import duty. So both export duty and import duty are tools to protect the domestic industries. For example, few years back, the government of India imposed export duty, heavy export duty on onions to prevent the over export of onions. Like that, we can impose import duty also to protect the domestic markets from phenomena like dumping. So like that, the export duty and import duty, and often this high export duty and import duty can discourage the trade relation between the nations. So here comes the role of free trade agreement. The free trade agreement is an agreement that signed between 2 or more nations to reduce or eliminate the tariff, quotas, and the trade barriers to ensure the free flow of goods and services between the nations. So this will enhance the market access, this will boost the trade relationship, and this will enhance the people to people connectivity, and this will finally leads to an overall development and well-being for both nations' economy. And what are the key features of free trade agreements? First is the elimination or reduction of customs duty. Like I mentioned, when UK and India are signing this free trade agreement, UK will reduce their import duty. Therefore, more Indian products will see the UK market. Similarly, India will also reduce import duty on UK products, which means more UK products will enter into Indian markets as well. And the next is a liberalization of trade in services. One of the key highlight, or one of the important or the significant of this UK free trade agreement is the focus of both nations in the service sector. We know that India is a home to nearly 1,500 global capability centers, and this is currently employing nearly 1.9 million people in India, which is focusing on service sector. So the service sector, India is known for providing great service at low cost. Therefore, India has a great opportunity with the United Kingdom to especially to boost our service sector. And the next is investment facilitation and the protection. For example, currently the UK has introduced this double contribution convention that will exempt the Indian workers and employers from contributing to the UK social security, and this will also boost the trade between India and the UK. And the next is the free trade agreements also contains information related to, or rules related to management of intellectual property, e-commerce management, and the mechanism for dispute resolution between two nations. And the next feature of the free trade agreements includes the cooperation in the field of standard setting and ensuring sustainability. We know that the standards, for example, we witnessed this issue while during the time of COVID, when India exported vaccines to various nations. The nations, especially nations like Denmark, did not accept or did not recognize India's vaccine. So these type of issues are facing by other products also. So through setting a standard between the nations, we can eliminate these type of barriers. So coming to the present free trade agreement between India and UK, what are the key highlights? First is it is expected to boost Indian sectors like textile, garments, jewelry, MSMEs, handicraft, and all. And the next is market access to service. Like I mentioned, the key focus of India-UK free trade agreement is the service sector, especially the technology and fintech companies. And the next is making the medical devices cheaper, aircraft parts cheaper, and also it will reduce the cost for automobiles and beverage items like whiskey and all. And the tariff elimination on 99% of tariff lines means the 99% percentage of the products entering into the UK market will not face that much import duty. This will ensure more Indian products in the UK market. Therefore, it will ensure more competition and opportunity for Indian employers and entities. So coming to the strategic and economic significance of the free trade agreement, like I mentioned in the beginning, we are aiming to boost the bilateral trade from 21 billion to 34 billion by 2040, and the double contribution convention, like I mentioned, this will eliminate or this will exempt the Indian workers from contributing to the UK social security up to 3 years. Up to 3 years, the Indian workers and employers no need to contribute to the UK social security, and this will ensure more presence of Indian workers and employers, Indian companies, and this will ensure more competition as well. The next is the defense industrial roadmap. That means currently we are focusing on core development of technologies and the semiconductors with the UK. And 6 UK universities will be open for Indian students, and this will ensure better people-to-people connectivity. And this is one of the important step towards the Vision 2035 announced in the ceremonial event of signing the UK Free Trade Agreement. And the next is the Vision 35. Like I mentioned, Vision 35 was introduced by or announced by the Indian government on the event of signing the Free Trade Agreement with the UK. So through this, we are planning to ensure a strong and a trustworthy relationship with the UK in the field of technology, defense, climate, education, and strong people-to-people connectivity. So in this topic, we discussed what is Free Trade Agreement and what are the features of free trade agreement, general features of free trade agreement, and then we discussed the key highlights of the India-UK free trade agreement and what is the strategic and economic significance of the free trade agreement. And coming to the prelims practice question, the question is, under the recently signed India-UK free trade agreement, which of the following sectors in India are expected to benefit the most? So the catch is here, expected to benefit the most. So 1, textile, garments and apparels, 2, gems and jewelry, and 3, MSMEs and handicraft, and 4, heavy defense import only. See, the correct answer is option B, 1, 2 and 3 only, because we can eliminate the option the statement 4, that is heavy defense import. Currently the focus is on service sector, and sectors like textiles are also expected to benefit, and MSMEs are also expected to be benefited from the India-UK free trade agreement. Therefore, the correct answer is option B, 2 only. Yes, it is option B, 2 only. So with this, we will move to the next article. The world must stop Israel from starving Gaza. The article is taken from Indian Express. We know that as a part of retaliation for the Hamas attack on October 7, 2023, Israel invaded Gaza, and since that day, the humanitarian crisis in this region cannot be explained in words. And according to the recent report from the Ministry of Health of Gaza, nearly 55,000 people lost their life in this invasion, and nearly 100 people lost their life because of malnutrition. And in the last week, in a joint statement given by many humanitarian workers, including the Doctors Without Borders, they're saying that the ongoing crisis is very severe, and many aid workers are collapsing because of lack of proper food and drinking water. So in this background, we have to talk about this, because this crisis should not go unspoken. So let us discuss more about this news article from the main point of view. So understanding the current context, we can see that the conflict is there since October 7, 2023. And the Israel blockade has created humanitarian crisis in Gaza because the people cannot access proper food, sanitation, health facilities. And according to the recent estimation, nearly 2 million people, that is nearly 20 lakh people in Gaza, are at the brink of famine. And this is raising global criticism towards Israel from a lot of countries. And understanding the background, if you go back to the reasons, the real reasons behind the Israel-Palestine conflict, the conflict is rooted in land and identity issues. And the history can be traced back to biblical era. And we can see that since 2007, the Gaza is under Hamas control, and they are, the blockade of facilities has created a lot of, socio-economic problems, including unemployment, poverty, lack of food, lack of sanitation, lack of health facilities. And we can see that in the recent times, that is since October 2023, the conflict got escalated and intensified, and it is going beyond hands now. And we can see that once, that is in 1960s and 1970s, there were strong nationalist movement for Palestine, and even the Arab nations supported Palestine. But the defeat of the Arab nations in Arab-Israel war resulted into reducing or diminishing support for the Palestine cause. And coming to the cost of Israel's invasion. So we know that Israel invaded on October 7, 2023, and according to the recent report, nearly 55,000 Palestinians lost their life, and thousands of them are women and children. and at least 111 people lost their life because of malnutrition, and aid workers are also collapsing because of hunger and lack of facilities. And hospitals, schools, shelters all got destroyed, and the UN aid post in the region got reduced from 400 to 4. And the starvation is using as a weapon, because we can see that the blockade, the people are people are living in a very small area, and the density is very high. This is precipitate, and this is increasing the intensity of the crisis. And the use of starvation as a weapon, it is a violation of Geneva Convention, and this also raised a lot of criticism from other countries towards Israel. And what is the current challenge? The current challenge is humanitarian crisis, the death because of starvation, lack of clean water and medication, and the collapse of governance. That means we can see that the UN aid post got reduced from 400 to 4, and many areas has to be militarized because of the unpredictability or the vulnerability in this region. And the next is geopolitical polarization. We can see that many nations, including powerful nations like USA, they are supporting Israel, and they are remaining silent in this humanitarian crisis, about this humanitarian crisis. And we can see that in the recent times there is a trend of rise of regionalism in international affairs, and this, because of this regionalism, the nations are prioritizing their own matters, and neglecting the international issues like the humanitarian crisis, like this in Israel-Palestine conflict. And we can see that the best example recently, the administrative policies of the United States. They started sending back the people. They imposed the heavy duty on the import goods. So like that, the regionalism is neglecting the international issues, especially the humanitarian crisis like Gaza. And at the same time, we can see that the global South is criticizing the Israel for this humanitarian crisis. So this is creating a division in the international scenario regarding the matter of Palestine. And the next is security risk. That means the carpet bombing can lead to more radicalization of the people, and it can lead to more security issues. Regional spillover. We can see that the Israel-Palestine conflict was followed by the crisis in Lebanon, right? And the threat to shipping lines, because we know that the Middle East, especially, it is a connecting point of Asia to Europe. So the crisis in this region can affect the trade also. And the next is challenges for India. So how India will be affected because of the humanitarian crisis or the political chaos in the West Asia. First is balancing the foreign policies. That means maintaining a strong tie with Israel, and supporting the Palestine cause is very difficult, because we cannot completely neglect Israel, because Israel is it's an important power in West Asia. So we cannot completely give up Israel. But at the same time, we cannot remain silent regarding the Palestine humanitarian crisis, because traditionally we supported the Palestine cause. We supported the people of Palestine, not Hamas. India supported the people of Palestine. We always stood with the people of Palestine. And the next is energy security. That means instability can lead to volatility in oil price, because West Asia is known for the production of oil. And the next is diaspora concern, because we have a lot of workers, Indian workers in the Gulf region, and they can be affected, because we can see that the Israel-Palestine conflict is not containing in a particular region. So the best example is the Lebanon conflict, right? The Israel-Palestine conflict was followed by the Lebanon crisis. And the next is the defense cooperation. So dependence on Israeli defense equipment, this will be affected. The defense cooperation with Israel will be affected. And the next is global standing. That is need for a principled humanitarian stance, because traditionally we supported Palestine, but because of the rise of regionalism in the international scenario, and because of the a small shift in the India's foreign policy approach, we are not able to maintain this balance. And coming to the way forward, we can see what has to be done. First is pressurizing Israel to open borders. So removing the blockade is important to bring essential aid to the people of Gaza. And the next is supporting ceasefire mediation by Egypt, Qatar, and others. Once these Arab nations were once the leaders of Arab League, so therefore their mediation is very important. And the next is ensuring accountability through United Nations and International Court of Justice. And the next, India, we can engage with both sides. We can support the cause of Palestine. At the same time, we have to maintain a strategic tie with Israel as well, because they are very good at military equipment. So therefore they are important for our defense cooperation. And at the same time, we should participate in humanitarian aid, and at the same time we can advocate for two-state solution. See that even though we have there is a possibility for two states, and maybe the two states can be a sustainable solution for the conflict in the West Asia. So with this, we will move to the main question. So in this topic, we discussed what is the current humanitarian crisis of of the West Asia, and what are the challenges, what is the cost of Israel's invasion, and what is the challenge for India, and how to deal with this challenge. That includes pressurizing Israel to open the blockade, engaging with Israel, at the same time supporting the cause of Palestine, at the same time mediation through Arab powers like Egypt, Qatar, and Jordan. So these are the things we can address while giving the way forward. So coming to the mains practice question. So the question is, Israel's war in Gaza and starvation crisis have drawn global condemnation. Discuss the background of the conflict, the cost of invasion, current challenges, and the challenges it poses for India. So in this question, we have to address four important parts. First is the background of the conflict. What is the real background of this conflict? What is the cause of this conflict? That includes the conflict rooted in identity and land. That includes geopolitical issues, like for example, Israel needs access to Mediterranean. Israel needs access to Europe. And the next is another major issue is the support from the US and other superpowers. And the next is cost of invasion includes humanitarian crisis, the death of nearly 55,000 people, death because of malnutrition, the possibility of famine. And what are the current challenges? Current challenges includes geopolitical polarization, like that. These are the current challenges. And the challenges for India, managing ties with Israel at the same time supporting the Palestinian cause, is a challenge for India. And the Indian workers can be affected. That means Indian diaspora can be affected. So these are the points you can address here. And in the way forward, like I mentioned before the question, you can talk about the mediation through Arab superpowers like Qatar, Egypt, and all. At the same time, we can force the Israel through platforms to remove the blockade, to bring essentials to the Gaza people. So these are the things you can address in the way forward. So with this, we will move to the next article. President's rule for another 6 months in Manipur. Amit Shah to move resolution in Rajya Sabha today. The article is taken from Indian Express. We know that with the resignation of CM Biren Singh on 13 February, the state of Manipur came under the president rule. And now the union minister is all set to move a resolution in Rajya Sabha seeking a 6-month extension of the state emergency in the state of Manipur. In this background, let us discuss more about the state emergency or Article 356 from the prelims point of view. So coming to the Article 356 or the President Rule, it is also called the President Rule because whenever the Article 356 is imposed on a state, then the governor of the state will take the control of the governance behalf of the president, and that is why it is also known as the President's Rule. And it is invoked when the constitutional machinery of a state fails. That means if a state cannot carry out the functions according to the constitution, then in that case the Article 356 can be imposed, and the president act on the governor's report or otherwise. That means the president can act based on the imposition will be based on the report of the governor or any other authentic source. That means the satisfaction of the president. If the president is satisfied that the state cannot carry out the functions according to the constitution, in that case the Article 356 can be imposed. But the satisfaction of the president is subject to judicial review. And the famous case, we all know that, SR Bommai case. And the state governed by the governor behalf of the president. Yes, once the emergency is declared, it is not mandatory to dissolve the state legislatures or the council of ministers, but the governor will take control of the government behalf of the president, and he will be assisted by the advisors appointed by the president of India. And coming to the duration and conditions of the state emergency, so initially it will be the proclamation will be for 6 months, but this proclamation has to be approved by both houses of the parliament within 60 days, that is within 2 months. So within this 2 months, if the Lok Sabha got dissolved without approving the state emergency, in that case, from the date of reassembly, the Lok Sabha has to approve the state emergency in the state of Manipur or in any other state. I will explain. For example, now imagine that it is July 30th, and the president rule is imposed on a particular state, and within 60 days, that means August, September, within September 30. Both houses of the parliaments has to, the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha has to approve the Article 356, the continuation of Article 356. Then only it will be continue for 6 months. Okay, and in the meantime, if the Lok Sabha got dissolved, for example, if the Lok Sabha got dissolved on August 10 without approving the continuation of the Article 356 or without approving the Article 356, then imagine that the next assembly of the and the Lok Sabha got reassembled on August 20th. Okay, so the Lok Sabha has not approved the continuation of the Article 356, and again the Lok Sabha got reassembled on August 20th. So from this, within 30 days, that is within August, September 20, if the Lok Sabha is not approving the Article 356, then the Article 356 in the state will cease to exist, and extendable up to 3 years with a 6-month parliamentary approval. Yes, so for the initially the proclamation will be for the 6 months, and it can be extended up to 3 years with a 6 months parliamentary approval. That means every 6 months it has to be approved by both houses of the parliament. So like I mentioned, once it is proclaimed, within 2 months, within 60 days, both houses of the parliament has to approve the the imposition of Article 356 in a particular state. In the meantime, if the Lok Sabha got dissolved, then from the date of reassembly, within 30 days, the Lok Sabha has to approve the Article 356 in a particular state. And coming to the extension, it can be extended up to 3 years with a 6-month parliamentary approval. Every 6 months, the parliament has to approve, and the extension beyond 1 year needs there are certain conditions for the extension of the state emergency beyond 1 year. First is, at the same time, the national emergency should be operational in any part of the country or on the entire nation. In that case, we can extend the state emergency in a particular state. And the next is, if the election commission of India is certifying that the state is not ready to carry out the functions according to the constitution, in that case also the extension can go beyond 1 year. So these are the major conditions. So the only area that we may experience little doubt is regarding the approval. So once it is proclaimed, it has to be approved within 60 days. In the meantime, if the Lok Sabha got dissolved, then from the date of reassembly, within 30 days, the Lok Sabha has to approve. So what if the Lok Sabha did not get reassembled in the 2 months? In that case also, the Article 356 in the state will cease to exist. So coming to the prelims practice question. So the question is, President's rule in Manipur has been extended. Which article of the Constitution provides for this? Option A, Article 352, option B, Article 355, Article 356, and Article 360. See, the correct answer is Article 356. We know that it is the article that is dealing with the President rule, and we discussed it in the very beginning. So with this, we will move to the next article. Mother of Stampede victim files theft case. The article is taken from The Hindu. So recently, an 18-year-old girl, Divyashni, lost her life in Stampede during the victory celebration of Royal Challengers of Bangalore outside the Chinnaswamy Stadium. And now, the victim's mother has filed a theft case against the staff who conducted the postmortem, saying that during the time of postmortem, a pair of earrings worn by her daughter was stolen. In this background, let us discuss more about Stampede from the prelims point of view, because we can see that in the recent times, India has reported a lot of Stampede cases, especially in the religious gatherings and the cinema theaters, and also in victory celebrations. So let us discuss more about it. And the Stampede is considered as categorized as a man-made disaster under the National Disaster Management Act guidelines. And what is meant by Stampede? Stampede occurs when a sudden, a large amount of crowd rushed due to panic or poor management, and it is usually reported during the religious gatherings, cinema theaters, or in the victory celebrations. What are the major causes? First is overcrowding. The overcrowding of people in a small area, and this will automatically create tensions, and sometimes the people who are suffering from any chronic conditions like cardiovascular issues or pulmonary issues are more vulnerable to death in the Stampede. And the next is lack of crowd management. The crowd management can lead to confusion, panic, and this can trigger the people to rush towards a particular direction without any idea, which can result in Stampede. And sometimes the accidents can trigger this panic. And the next is coming to the responsibility. Who has the responsibility to manage this crowd? A state disaster management authority, district collector, and local police has to take care of the Stampede in case if there is any disaster, and they are responsible for the management of crowd as well. And coming to the legal backing, the Disaster Management Act 2005 provides guidelines for the management of crowd, and it also provides guidelines to deal with the man-made disasters, including the Stampede. So with this, we will move to the next article. With this, we are coming to the conclusion for today's current affair analysis. If you like the video, hit the like button, give your feedbacks as comments, and share this content with your friends. And before leaving this channel, don't forget to subscribe and also hit the bell icon to receive on-time update from Shankar IAS Academy. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for listening to me. Have a nice day.